Hey y'all, it's your girl Danae, and I'm back again with another episode of the Philadelphia Sunday Suns, a Millennial Voice, which, as you guys might know, started as a column. So make sure you're headed to www.philasun.com to check out my writing and also my colleagues as well. But as you guys know, I'm here every Sunday with a new amazing person every week. And this week I have here with me Vernon, who is a visual lyricist. That's how you describe yourself, right? Yeah, awesome. So I have Vernon here with me, fellow Philadelphian. Well, I'm not really, I'm Philly adjacent, y'all already know the T, but I'm here with Vernon and they're going to talk about, all the amazing things that they've been doing, actor, model, writer, screenwriter, so many different things. So Vernon, I'm going to stop talking now and I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Sure. Yeah, I am Vernon Jordan III. Philly, born and raised artist, 215 all day. And yeah, I guess I'll start about the visual lyricist piece.
Mhm.
I started as an artist at a very young age, singing a little bit in the church, and just music being like my way kind of into the world.
Mhm.
I am or was severely premature, 5 months premature.
Wow.
And one of the things that my dad and my mom and my sister would do when I was in the incubator is they would leave their voices on a tape recorder so that when they left, because they had to go to school or work or what have you, their voices would still, kind of be playing in my ears.
So sweet.
So I think about that a lot and
Yeah.
how that's, maybe related to music and like the first sounds of music that I'm hearing are like the voices of my family members.
Yeah.
And so, in everything I do, like, I'm a filmmaker, I'm a director, um, it is a visual art and it is, image making and moving images. Um, but I also wanted to have that quality of like the lyricism and that quality of the music. And like, I want, my film, some of them to really feel like a song.
Mm.
Um, and, and so, I don't sing as much as I used to. I'm just kind of getting back into like making music.
Okay.
Um, but I'm always thinking about like, how do I make this film like sing a little bit,
Mhm.
like have a sense of poetry and like rhythm.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah. Is that a difficult undertaking?
Um, I know,
Okay.
yeah, but no in the sense of like, I think I'm like a naturally romantic and like poetic person, so I think
Okay.
it kind of naturally bleeds through. But
Mhm.
then yes, in the sense that it's hard sometimes to like take that bird's eye view and
Mm.
like look and be like, okay, am I actually doing um, what I think that it is that I'm doing?
Mm.
Especially with filmmaking because the film changes so much from the page to shooting, and then you get in post production, and it's a totally different thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of like, coming back and being like, okay, do I think, do I know what I'm doing? And sometimes I don't, and
Yeah.
that's fine too. And
Mhm.
you really just have to like lean into it and trust it.
Right.
Um, but yeah, hopefully, I think people will feel that, I think when they watch my work and like get a sense of a feeling, whatever the feeling is, I just want people to walk away like something was touched or like felt
Yeah.
in a very personal way. So.
Okay. Yeah. So I checked out your playlist and I checked out some of the songs that you've recorded yourself as well. And so this, what you were just saying, kind of perfectly leads into like the first topic of what I wanted to talk about, which is how much music informs your artistry. And it sounds like it plays like a great deal into the work, but would you say it's ever vice versa, or is it kind of sort of like they both meld into each other?
Mm. How much music plays into my filmmaking
Like how
and my
much it informs your creativity, your writing, your filming?
yeah, I mean it's in every piece of it. Really, I can't escape it. I know that I'm serious about a project, in particular a film project, when I make a playlist for it.
Yeah,
And
Inland. That's the one that I checked out, your Inland playlist.
yes, that's like my most recent big one, and that's just for like a short story, right?
Mhm.
Um, but it helps me to like sit in the characters and sit in the world.
Yeah.
And like, there are things that I can't say, or
Yeah.
things that like I may not be able to write, but that song hits that feeling, or that song says it for me.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I just kind of lean on that, and that helps me to like stay focused on like what exactly the mood or the feeling or the tone of this um, is, and like helps me stay grounded like in that world.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
I was, writing that short. There were a lot of times where um, I think there's one song on that playlist called "Realm of Love," and I would just like sit and like cross my legs and like assume the character of Aluma, who's this like jazz woman,
Mhm.
and she, like owns this black bar
Yeah.
where musicians come and just like play. And I would just listen to that song and just like sit in a certain way and just like kind of become her as I was writing it. So
That's
yeah,
cool.
it's
Yeah.
it's always informing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I am not a filmmaker. I've never thought to be one. I've only written things, like articles and stuff like that, which is emotionally taxing within itself. But I can't imagine putting myself in the position of the person that I'm trying to create, for the purpose of creating a character. So my next question to you is, how do you kind of have a how do I want to ask this? How do you create a balance within yourself? Because it sounds like filmmaking is a lot of mentally grueling work, especially if it's something that you genuinely care about and want to convey a story the way that you have it in your head, and get that executed perfectly on paper. So how do you do that? And also, how do you manage to care for yourself, your mental health in the process?
Yeah, I think so. For me, I used to look at, and I still do to a certain degree, but I used to be a lot more rigid about it. But I used to look at my artistic processes as seasons. And
Mm.
like, I know that when the spring rolls around, I'm thinking a lot about poetry. When summer comes, I find myself singing more. I'm thinking a lot about music. When the fall comes, I want to like kind of hunker down and write some scripts.
Yeah.
Um, and I think generally, speaking like that kind of rhythm remains true. But also, I've kind of just loosened it up and just like I think I have to let these various things kind of play themselves out at the same time,
Mhm.
because otherwise it just can be kind of stressful to like feel like I have to manage when um, when that impulse is going to come, or like what story I'm drawn to, or like feeling like I can't work on a certain thing because it's not in that season.
Yeah.
Uh, but at the same time, I had to check myself, when I was in college, particularly around my acting, and just realizing that like, yo, if I'm not having fun,
Mm,
uh, and my body is saying no to this,
yeah.
like I can't do this as much as I want to,
Right.
and as much as I think I should be doing it right now. It's like, no, this is not it.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that definitely has saved me a lot of pain and a lot of anguish. I think,
Yeah.
uh, in choosing to not push so hard on like that. I'm gonna, perform on stage and be this kind of actor and do this kind of work.
Yeah.
I really just had to settle back into what my truest flow was, and what my heart wanted,
Right.
um, was to direct, and which was to write. And the you're right that like filmmaking is very grueling, like mentally, emotionally. Um, but I think I find safety in the fact that it does take so long to take a film, to make a film. So
Yeah.
like, this short that I'm working on now is like I've been sitting with it and living with it for like 2 almost 3 years.
Wow.
Um, even though it's like less than 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So
And then it takes a long time to also like film and edit and stuff like that too, right? Even though it is only 15 minutes.
yeah, yeah. I mean, production is the quickest when you're making a short film. It's like, for this we had 3 days, and two of those days were actual shoot days. One of them was a rehearsal,
Mhm.
and kind of lighting camera rehearsal.
Yeah.
Um, so that was fairly quick, but I think like the large amount of time gives me room to, some weeks I just can like chill and
Yeah.
like pull back,
Right.
and make sure that I've like, I've stretched, I've done my yoga, I've meditated,
Mhm.
that I'm eating right,
Yeah.
and just drinking my water and like talking to my
So
friends and,
important. Right.
and,
Yeah.
hearing the voices of my loved ones is definitely a bomb for me,
Yeah.
when I find myself getting stuck or a little mentally unwired or something. So,
Yeah. And I love that you brought up, hearing the voices of people you love, because it really takes me back to the beginning of the conversation where you mentioned that, when you were a preemie, your family would leave voice recordings for you. And it's just amazing to see how that kind of connect has happened within you and how it's kind of stayed there. And so I'm trying not to jump all over the place, but you just are saying so many things that have just like sparked so much. So from 5 months, being born at 5 months to now, like, what is the bridge that took you from that baby who was listening to their parents or siblings voices like in the hospital to now in a point where you're creating something for the consumption of others, um, using your voice?
mm, wow. That's a great question. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, what? I mean, there's many things.
Mhm.
There's really not just one thing. Um, but mm, I guess I'm thinking of discipline right now. Like, I
Mhm.
think I was fortunate enough as a teenager to have a sort of artistic discipline ingrained in me.
Yeah.
And, I studied at this place that was called New Freedom Theater in
Okay.
North Philly.
Mhm.
And it was an all black, um, center theater. All of my teachers were black, all of the kids who I was learning around and learning how to be, an actor and a theater professional and a professional artist. Like we were all black, in high school and middle school and elementary school. Um, and so I think I just learned to like take it seriously, um, take the craft seriously
Mhm.
and not not have to wonder if my voice was worth it,
Mhm.
and not have to wonder if I was beautiful enough, or if I was this enough, or if I was that enough, if I was light enough to be frank, right?
Yeah.
Um, and that I just carry it with me everywhere I go, because I think that it it saved me in so many ways, because I was being bombarded with so many images of like, the white boy is the only one who can be the filmmaker, right? The light skinned boy is the only one who can be pretty, this and that, and then all of these things that I'm soaking in about myself, and or rather soaking in about others, but
Mhm.
then projecting it onto myself,
Yeah.
and no one really being there to like have that conversation with me to say like, yo, like you can excavate a lot of that because it has nothing to do with you.
Mm.
Uh, and one of the things I used to do at the theater is before we went to our classes, uh, they would go password, and our password was always or actually every day was different. We just kind of had to make it up, whether it was a dance or a song or whatever.
Mhm.
But then at the end, they would say, "You are beautiful,"
Mm.
and so that was like our entryway into all of our classes. So yeah, I just think that artistic discipline is very close to like self love, at least in my life.
Okay.
Um, and I think just learning to be comfortable with like um, stretching my voice, you know.
Mm. I love that. And I know I've told you this before, but your spirit is just so calming. Like I could literally listen to you talk all day. It's amazing. I'm usually like, my God. And then like you're just so like, yeah, like, and you make me want to be like more like, yeah.
it's,
I
it's
love
the jazz, baby. It's the jazz.
I love that for you. And I'm so happy that you brought up, creating space and also taking up the space that you deserve and not having anybody kind of place you in a box. Because one of the things that I felt was really interesting about you was the sort of sci-fi spin that you have, with some of your projects, which is a space that's relatively untapped by Black people, at least from my perspective. So what does it feel like being in those spaces or kind of creating that lane and that space for yourself that might not have really existed prior to?
Yeah, I mean, I'm an Afrofuturist, kind of through and through, and um, I, I definitely always have to credit Janelle Monáe. for
Mhm,
being like my Janelle Monáe and like Sun Ra, for being like, my first kind of exposures to Afrofuturism.
mhm,
And um, it's it's not just about the art, like that's part of it. But for me, it was like I started chanting like this mantra when I was a senior in high school, and it's like Black people are in the future. I am in the future. I belong to the future.
yeah,
Um, and the extension of that is if I belong to the future, then I belong to the here and now as well.
yeah,
And if I belong to the here and now, then that means I also belong to the past, and that I have a past, and that my people have a past, and that there are things so much larger than me, so long before me,
yeah,
um, that were seated, and that I'm the consequence of, and that I get to grow out of all of those things that I know and don't know.
yeah,
So in that sense, Afrofuturism was a term that was coined, I believe, in like 1973, by this white writer, um, who was talking with I forget who the conversation was with, but it was with two or three like Black science fiction writers.
mhm,
Um, even though that term is coined when it is, Black people have been doing Afrofuturist work, have been doing science fiction work for a very long time.
mhm,
Um,
mhm,
but it's not considered canon because oftentimes it bucks up against the traditional notions, of like these like white time travel stories where like, oh, if you go back in time forward, then you can't go back the same way backwards, and you'll screw up something on the timeline because this has to happen in this certain way. um, but Black time is it happens in circles and triangles, and not straight lines, and
mm,
not one dimensional consequences.
yeah.
um, so it just feels like I'm at home, I think, when I get to like have those conversations, and feel like I'm okay, I'm not the only one who's like looking up at the stars and like stargazing,
Yeah.
um, and and like howling at the moon, like,
Hmm.
um, yeah, I think it all really feels at home to be talking about things that are both of our world and of other worlds and of the next worlds, and things like that.
I love this so much because I feel like, understanding that you belong in the here and the past and in the future, it feels like such like a simple sentiment, but it's so powerful, right? And it's obviously it's helped you in your creative process and things like that. So I really love that you were able to kind of like take on that mindset and really adapt that and also put it into your work. Because and maybe this is just me as a consumer, I feel like I pay too much attention to things. I went to the movie yesterday and I was thinking about how it seems that there's such like a disconnect between genuine intention and the films that are out right now and the movies and stuff like that. So I'm really happy that you have that sort of intention in your work. And I wanted to ask you too, as a person who is creative, who seems to always be thinking about their place in the world and the order of things or lack thereof, do you ever find it difficult to just be a consumer? Like, do you always come at something with a lens of like analysis or anything like that?
It is definitely more difficult to like take off, my critic brain and also my filmmaker brain. Like, the thing that no one tells you when you start making films is that you will never watch movies the same way again.
Mm,
Like, and I'm when I go to the movies now, I think I'm I think I'm sometimes watching to get an education on like how to continue to make movies,
mhm.
and not so much entertainment. But there are times where I can like just snap out of it. I saw the recent Spider-Man movie two times
That's what I went
over
to see
different times.
yesterday. That's so funny.
Yeah, yeah. And so, I saw it with my baby nephew, and my niece and my sister. And I was like, I'm taking the critic hat off. I am here with the babies. I'm here with my big sister. Like, we are just gonna enjoy this little popcorn fest,
Yeah.
and enjoy these three Spider-Men existing in the same universe. Um, so yeah, I think there are times where I can take it off. I recently marathoned Harry Potter as well, and I'm not like a super big Harry Potter fan,
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
but I was just like, yeah, I want to see, like, because the 20th anniversary
Mhm,
special was released. And I started watching it, but then I was like, wait, I actually don't really remember any of what happened in those movies. So
mhm.
let me go back and watch. So yeah, but it definitely becomes more difficult to take it off. And I I don't think you can ever think too much. So I want to say that, you know, to you.
Thank you for saying that. I'm very critical of myself, but thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
And the other reason I wanted to ask you that too, because we're gonna like shift a little bit. You know, you're doing the filmmaking, but you're also writing, but you're also songwriting, and so you have your hands in pretty much like every single aspect of really what you do. And so like, again, the reason I asked that question is because I could imagine that it's even harder for you because it's like, okay, I have the ear for music, but I also have the sense for acting, but I also have like the writing skills to critique the writing of this movie or the filming skills to critique the cinematography. And so that's why I really wanted to ask that question because again, for me, as somebody who doesn't make films and is just like a really observant person, I was in the movie theater yesterday and I was thinking about this interview and I like took out my notebook really quick and I had to jot something down. I'm like, I really, I wish I could just be present in the moment and not thinking about like intention versus like consumerism, because that's been like something that's been heavy on my mind lately. So thank you for humoring me. But
I would
in
say too,
uh,
as a last note on that, if I can, I don't believe that you've not you person not you the personal you, but just you, you know, collective. I don't believe that you've seen a movie unless you've seen it more than 2 times.
mm,
So, you know, I don't know, maybe try that and see if it works for you. Like if you have to go in the first time with that critical brain, go for it. And then like, you know, maybe if you like the movie enough, try to see it a second time to see, you know, to see the
yeah,
movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what kind of films do you like? Because I my attention span is a little crazy. So I'm great at binge watching, but it takes a lot for me to sit down and actually watch a movie that I fully enjoy. So what type of movies do you like? And what's your favorite I guess your favorite era of film?
You know, I don't think I have a favorite era per se.
Okay.
Partially because you know, I'm a triple air sign, so I relate to this attention span thing. Um, but you know, it's like I've probably seen like maybe 2 of the 3 movies out of this film movement and out of that film movement.
Okay.
Um, but I really, mm, yeah, I guess my film taste is pretty expensive. I mean, I really love a good short film. Like, I really love seeing great short films like that.
Yeah.
That makes my heart happy. Um, I love like vampire films are like my
Okay.
thing. Please give me a good vampire movie and I'm there. Um, you
Okay.
know, I think very kind of like slow burning, but super romantic movies like, you know, In the Mood for Love, or, you know, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, um, Medicine for Melancholy, which was Barry Jenkins' first feature before Moonlight.
Hmm.
One of my favorite movies.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, yeah, and I mean, right now I'm having like a real hunger for like just seeing Black people in love. I think the winter time, you know, I'm
I know
going through the
such
winter
a
blues,
season.
and I'm like, yeah, I need to counter this with some with some warmth, you know, like some mahoganies.
Yeah.
Um, uh, yeah, yeah,
Okay. And just on the topic of Moonlight, I know you wrote something for Huffington Post about Moonlight, correct?
yeah. It was for this publication called The Establishment,
Okay.
and Huffington Post they offered to republish it. Yeah.
That's beautiful. What was that moment like for you?
Oh, it was kind of crazy. Because Terrell Alpha McCraney like reached out and I think they had like tweeted it and
Mm.
like got wind of it and I was like, wow, that's cool. But yeah, I mean, that piece of writing I look back on sometimes and I'm like, there's some things that you know if I wrote it now, I think I would express very differently or like you know I kind of disagree with myself
Mm.
on the title of the piece. Like I'm very like, oh, I don't like that at all. But you know, I mean, yeah, I think I saw Moonlight in theaters like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah,
Um, and I think that second time, uh, somewhere between the first and second time was when I started writing the piece. And then I was just like eating it up and eating it up and eating it up. And yeah, I mean, it was just so beautiful. Yeah, it was just a very cool moment. I think it was like really one of my first bigger like freelance writing. publication moments.
Yeah, that's
Um,
awesome. I love that for you.
so
Um, and so you said something to me that I also found really interesting. As somebody who's written for the past 2 years myself, sometimes you do look back at that old work and you're just like, man, I really thought I was a better writer than I was, or I wish I would have titled this something different, or my ideas on life or on the content that I was writing on are just in general are so different. And so film, again, just to go back to your filmmaking, that's one of those things that's kind of like very romantic because it's fixed in time, but you also can't go back. And so my next question to you is, do you ever go back to a movie that you watched, or I'm not sorry, not watched, I'm sorry, created? Do you ever go back and you think, I wish I would have done this differently? Or do you just let it be for who you were at the time?
yeah, I think with film it's a little different. I think if I had more of a joy about editing,
Mm,
um, I think then I would probably be going back and tinkering a lot and like be like, yeah, let me change this, let me update this. But I don't. So I just kind of have to let it rock.
yeah.
And and just like peep, what the lessons are and take that into the next film. Um,
Okay.
and I think about, my short See My Dreams Come True. Um, I have this urge to just like a quick re-edit
Uh-huh.
and like just put Drake's Jumpman over the whole film.
Okay.
Um, and
Okay. Heard
and
you.
I don't know if I ever do it, but it's always like every time I look at that film, I hear that song
Mhm.
because that was one of the songs that was like on my playlist and one of the songs that like got me through
Yeah.
um, that filmmaking process. But yeah, I mean, you have to leave it because it's
Yeah.
also just so painful sometimes to think about because it's like
Yeah.
on film. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, oh my God, that is, why did we do that? Or like,
Yeah.
why didn't someone, how did we miss that?
Mm.
Um,
It's all a
so
process of growing
yeah,
and learning. I don't want to ask you this question because it seems like it might be a little deep, but I'm gonna ask you it anyway. And if you don't want to answer, you don't have to. Um,
okay.
Not deep, but maybe something you might not want to answer because sometimes I just don't like to think about stuff. But anyway, for you, like, how do you, when writing or creating something, how do you know when it's like the final script? How do you know when something's done? Does it ever feel completed?
I think the most important thing is like feedback.
Okay.
Um, that is, like I think if I get a positive result and some negative results, because I have yet to write a script that is like all glowing results, right? Like there's always something that needs to be fixed or just something that could be stronger. Um, yeah, I think when I receive the good kinds of notes from people I trust,
Mhm.
people I know, and also other people who are writers and are storytellers, then I'm like, okay, we have something here. And then I'll go back, I'll take note of their notes, go back and read it myself. Um, and then I'm like, okay, I think this is, I think when I have that impulse to share it with the wider world in some way,
Mhm.
or like share it with a stranger who I just met
Yeah.
because we're having a conversation and I'm like, oh my God, like relates to this. Would you be interested?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think that's probably how I know when it's done. And sometimes I have that impulse to share right at the beginning of the process too, because I'm just like, you're so excited, like I'm
Yeah.
writing a new thing, and it's like energy is moving through me, and like, oh my God, I'm
Uh-huh.
so inspired, and it's been so long. Like,
Mhm.
who wants to read it? Who wants to read it? Because this is great. This journal is amazing. I
Yeah.
need you to see it. But then you got to pull it back because you're like, no, 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 no. It's,
Mhm.
it's it's still first draft. So relax.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. And so again, like the core theme of really all you do seems to be intimacy. And I see that invoked in your writing and in just the way that you move and the pictures you take, because we haven't really talked about it much, but you're also a model. But again, just to go back to like film and creation in that regard, what does it feel like for you to have your emotions so heavily put into something for the consumption of others? Do you ever feel like naked in a way, or that somebody's really seeing like all of you, sort of that like vulnerability that maybe you might be avoidant to share? Or do you ever feel that way?
I think when I'm sharing it in the script phase,
Mhm.
I forget how much of myself is on the page, and it just kind of bypasses my brain. I'm like, yeah, sure, read it. Let me know what you think.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think like sitting down, in a space and like seeing my work on the screen was like so nerve wracking. Like, oh my god. And I, fortunately, I guess, unfortunately, I don't know. I do write a lot of things that are um, close to home, and it may not be the closest, but most of my stories take place in Philadelphia, so there is a lot of um, kind of personal artifacts that are moving through the film a lot of the time. Um, so yeah, it can be nerve wracking, but I also know it just comes with the territory, and I think to the point where like there's a transferable skill from like performing poetry and singing on stage, like it's the same thing.
Okay.
Um, it's just like you have to get up there and do it. And I've already done it in the case of the film, so now I have to just like get up there and like let the film do it and just like breathe through it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next thing we're going to talk about is going to be the last thing for today. So you have a project coming out called One Magenta Afternoon. And like I told you earlier, I love that name. Like it's hard as hell. So please give me a little bit of background on what this is because it's just so smooth, sexy, sultry, and I gotta see it.
Yes, thank you. One Magenta Afternoon is a short film that I've been calling like an Afro-queer jazz fashion portrait.
Okay.
Um, and it follows this young boy who, with the help of his grandfather, um, they end up summoning these kind of six spirits, these six queer spirits, in the middle of a jazz lesson.
Ooh,
Um, and yeah, I mean, we got some really great collaborators on the piece, some really dope like fashion that the ghosts are like dressed in. Um, and it's a proof of concept for a feature film that I'm writing called Lavender Boy.
mm,
And yeah, it was my grad school thesis,
okay.
Lavender Boy. And so when I came out of grad school, I was like, I'm really like in love with this story right now, and I like want to bring it to the world somehow. And so One Magenta Afternoon was born after that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I mean it's based on um, it's all part of a larger work. Like Lavender Boy is the sequel to another film script that I've written called The Sound of the Earth, um, which is a kind of imagined version of history of my grandfather's life. Um, so the characters pop up unless who are the main characters in One Magenta Afternoon, and in Lavender Boy, they're very inspired by myself and my pop up Vernon Senior. So yeah.
Beautiful. I love the intergenerational aspect of it too, and the spiritual aspect of it. And so I definitely get the whole like afro-futurism concept that you have going on there. And I'm really excited to see it come to life. That was all I had for you, though. I know we talked about so many different things, but this has been so lovely. So is there anything else that you wanted to touch on before we go?
Um, hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I guess I just have to say I'm really thankful for like meeting you, and us being like, we speak family. That's really cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, you're just so sweet and gorgeous and like killing it.
Thank you so much. I feel the same about you. Also, I'm a very emotional person. So, like, that's why I'm making this ugly face right now because I'm like, that is so nice. Thank you so much. No, seriously, like, I really enjoyed our first interview. And I just had to hear about more of what you were talking about just because I feel like a lot of people don't understand that acting and modeling and filmmaking and all those things are like so different. They have like very similar ties, but they're so different. And I know how difficult it is to be a multi-hyphenate. So I wanted you to come on here just to talk a little bit about what you do and what you're passionate about. And so if you feel that I've accomplished that, then that's a blessing within itself. But thank you so much. Vernon, you have to let us know when your project One Magenta Afternoon is coming out. And you said it was Lavender Boy.
Lavender Boy, yeah, this is the
Yes.
feature film.
Okay, cool. You have to let me know when that's coming out too, so I can definitely tell my like viewers, subscribers, whatever, what you have going on. And I'm definitely gonna keep up with you because this is just, like I said, your energy is like calming me. I'm like so like
Thank you.
Wow.
Well, I I can't wait to do a shoot together one day. I'm
Yeah,
calling that until we get for this year.
I'm gonna text Brianna
Um,
after we get off this call. We're gonna have to talk.
like, listen,
We're gonna have to talk to Brianna and get it done
yeah,
for sure.
that's and also, I'll say last thing,
Mhm.
let people know I'm the casting producer for a short film called Silk right now. It is being shot in Philly,
Okay.
so we'll be looking for people soon. So,
Awesome. Awesome. And drop your socials before we go.
oh yeah, Instagram, I'm at Vernon Jordan III. That's VERNON JORDAN, 3 eyes.
Okay.
Um, on Twitter, I am Afro Jedi with 3 eyes. No spaces or underscores or anything like that. So
Okay, period. You said I'm not the first, second, I'm the third. I love
I'm
that.
excited.
I'm the third. I love that. But okay, Vernon, thank you so much for joining me today. And I also want to thank you guys for watching another episode of Millennial Voice, the show here with the Philadelphia Sunday Sun every Sunday at 2 p.m. Make sure you're checking Vernon out. I'm so excited to just see what you continue to do. And also make sure you guys are going to our website, www.philasun.com, to check out our articles, or you can get us in print for only $40 a year. Again, Vernon, thank you so much for joining me today, and I will talk to you soon.
Thank you.